Joining us on the Com Radio Football pregame show, a great guest that we've had last year and now back again this year. Happy to introduce 97.5 Afternoon Drive host Mike Missanelli, former Penn State graduate. Mike, how are you?
Good, Willie. How you doing, man?
Good. So let's start it off with obviously Temple coming up to Penn State, the Philadelphia connection there. All the bets last year came in. Everybody told you Temple was going to beat Penn State. I remember all the radio hosts that you're with were giving you a hard time the day before the game. Are those bets coming in this year again?
No, it's ironic that all the Temple people at our radio station have kind of been quieted, and even before the season, they were all a little vim and vigored up about how Temple was the best program in Pennsylvania, and kind of relishing the fact that Penn State's semi-demise here. But the tables have turned. All it took was a dominant performance against Navy, but also I thought they were pretty dominant against Virginia. I was at that game, and I thought that they beat them up and down the field and just didn't win the game. So I think the betting line reflects that Penn State's a solid favorite in this game. 9 points is significant. So I have put out an offer to all my Temple brethren at the station that I will take all bets, and so far I haven't gotten any.
Yeah, that 9-point line has moved down to about 7.5, 7. Does that? I know you're a big proponent of the line telling you something. Does that tell you anything? That there's a lot of Temple money coming in.
The line at 9 tells me that Penn State wins this game pretty easy, and I think what they're looking at is that the Penn State defense is really good, and they're playing hard, and they're determined to keep their team in the game. They have that responsibility. I think they're taking it upon themselves, and Maudie personally is taking it upon himself. So I think it's going to be tough for Temple to score. I mean, in the past, they always had a guy who carried a mail for them. The Dark Pierce and Hoyer without Dark Pierce really has looked average this year. So I think it's going to Temple will really have a hard time scoring. I'm thinking like maybe they don't even score a touchdown. Like 21-6 area is where I am.
There's a lot of Penn State hate out there, Mike. You've talked about it on your show countless times, but especially from Temple. I was at that game last year, and, man, it was pretty brutal. And we're expecting a lot of Temple kids to come up here, and, they don't hide the fact that they really hate Penn State. Why do you think Temple people are like that? Why do they have so much, I guess, hate bent up from Penn State?
Well, I don't want to sound pompous here, but it kind of is what it is. I think that the Temple people, I think, are semi-envious of the Penn State football and campus experience. And, Temple's a good school. Don't get me wrong. You'll get a really good education. You'll get really good academic programs, especially in the area of communication. But it's just not the college experience that Penn State is. And I think that because they're kind of envious of that. And let's face it, Penn State for a lot of years cultivated that kind of pristine image and holier-than-thou image. And so the people who fall in that wake, now that they've got a chance to get back a little bit, come over the top with the haymakers. So, well, I totally understand it. It's just that the problem with this year is that they don't really have that much of a leg to stand on. I mean, they thought that they were going to be a lot better and Penn State's going to be a lot worse. And so, bragging rights have to come with the final score. And I don't think they're going to have it this year, even though this is not a great Penn State team.
Now, I know Temple moved to the Big East, but it seems every year that they all mark their calendar for when they're playing Penn State. Is it fair to say that Temple views the Penn State game as their kind of Super Bowl?
I don't think there's any question. When you haven't beaten Penn State in so long, and they've been close a couple of times, they've played representative football, especially way back in the 80s, I guess, when Paul Palmer was playing for Temple. And they were a pretty solid program, good offensive team under Bruce Arians, but they haven't been able to kick the door in. And it's been a struggle for Temple to build a football program to that level where you can actually beat somebody like Penn State. Because if you beat Penn State, then you start competing for the recruits that Penn State gets. Now, of course, Penn State's recruiting is not going to nearly be what it was. They're going to have to take the bullet for a lot of years, and this is where Temple can make some progress here. But they need to win. They need to win and prove that their program is a big boy program.
Yeah, right. That was actually my next question. You kind of touched on it right there. Do you feel like a lot of recruits in the Philadelphia region are looking at this game, especially with the struggles from Pitt? They have looked pretty bad. I know they beat Virginia Tech last week, but Penn State's a little bit down. Is Temple, if Temple's able to win this game, what does it do for them recruiting-wise? New Jersey, Maryland, Pennsylvania, what does it do for Temple if they're able
Well,
to come out
I
with a
think
win?
it helps them in light of the fact that Penn State is now, going to take a downward slide recruiting-wise. So if you're looking, I think Penn State still gets the rural Pennsylvania recruit that still looks at Penn State as place they want to be, and growing up they wanted to be there. But people that are on the kind of the edge or where they want to go, and Penn State, they consider them, but they're not foremost anymore because they're not going to win anything for a while. I think Temple can steal that recruit, but at the end of the day, if we're talking about the high level recruits, Penn State's not going to get them anyway. So you're talking about these guys that are like maybe just a notch below that Temple had the shot at.
Now, Mike, you said you were at the Virginia game, so obviously you were there to witness Sam Ficken and his performance that day, missing some of the kicks. Bill O'Brien's put his full support behind the kid. There's been a lot of controversy up here of how should people treat Sam Ficken. He's been ripped on Twitter and all kinds of social media. What are your feelings on that? And you saw it up close. What are your feelings on Sam Ficken?
Well, I thought it was pathetic, to be honest with you. I mean, and I know that it sounds callous to pick on a kid, but you got to understand this is a scholarship kicker, and they have one thing to do, and if he does his job 20% efficiency, they win that game. You can't accept a major college scholarship and then get spooked by the moment, which I thought he did. Obviously, that 20-yard field goal, which is an extra point range, when you push that, you're nervous. You're choking up, and if you're choking up, you're not worthy of a Division I scholarship. So that kid's got to look within and break past that. But as far as sympathy goes, this is big boy thing now. It's like if you're a kicker, already you don't have the responsibility that other players have, and so the rate of success has to be higher. You don't sweat blood like everybody else. You get there, you kick. And so you have a pressure to come through. Those are the rules, In lieu of the fact that you don't have to undergo weight training or get your head busted on the practice field, you got to be really extra good when you actually get a chance to kick. And if you don't like that deal, then you can go somewhere else and kick and play for a Division III school where it's not as important.
Well, I agree with that completely. Now, with Bill O'Brien, a lot of people lauded him when he was hired. He said all the right things. He did all the right things in the offseason, but I always said it's going to be based on how he does on the football field. Obviously, he has restrictions with the sanctions and everything like that, but 1-2 right now, how would you assess the coaching job, just specifically the coaching job that O'Brien has done in his first 3 games?
Well, it's hard to assess because, this first game, really, I didn't expect, and his defense let down on him. And now, since then, the defense has picked it up. So I didn't understand how they got riddled in that first game, and they didn't look like they had any fight. So I wasn't certainly going to give him any points for that. He's in a tough spot. Keeping this thing together, keeping kids' heads up, is really, when you're not playing for anything except pride, it's a tough thing. And so I don't envy his position. But he knows what he's up against. He's got to get skill players in that fit his offense, and it's going to be really tough to do that, unfortunately.
Last question regarding Penn State football as a whole. Obviously there's been a lot made about the future. I've heard you talk about it. It's going to take them at least 10 years to get over all of this. But in 4 years, when these sanctions are lifted, where is this program, would you say?
I think it's down, and that's why it's going to take. When I put a 10-year frame, I think it's going to take an additional 4 or 5 years to catch up at that point because Penn State's out of mind, out of sight, and so you're going to have to now restyle the program and get people reinterested in it. And that first entry class, you have to get a class that knows it might not win by the time their college career is over, but they're interested in rekindling the program, and that's a very selective recruit. So it's going to, this NCAA thing was disgusting to me, and it still doesn't fit well with me at all. The fact that they ruined the football program just because they could, it's repulsive to me. But you're talking about a 10-year window, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects Penn State fans because this whole stadium was built on the success level of the team and 110,000 people and suites being sold and all that. And I just wonder, like, after 4 years, where's that? What is the attendance? Do people still hang in there? This year is okay because they're showing solidarity. But then next year when they don't have a chance to win anything, and then the year after that when they don't have a chance to win anything, the people do want to win. It's a nice experience, but ultimately, if you don't have anything to play for, and you can't compete in the Big Ten and have a meaningful win over a Michigan or Ohio State, then it's just an entertainment, and it needs to be more than that. And that's the way they built that stadium.
Well, that's a good point. They haven't even eclipsed 100,000 this year, which is surprising to me. But we'll bring it back to the Temple game. The last thing I'll ask you, you alluded to it earlier in the show, but can I get a score out of you regarding this? And
I'm going 21-6. As you notice, I don't have a Sam Ficken field goal in there, so I got a defensive touchdown, 2 additional touchdowns, and Temple kicks 2 field goals. They've got a good field goal kicker, but I don't think they score a touchdown.
Well, you got him making 3 extra points, so I guess that's good, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. In that case, make it 20-6.
Final thing, I got John Marks later on the show to get the Temple perspective. What do you think he's going to say? You think he's going to go with Temple? Has he approached you with that at all?
He's got nothing. He knows he's got nothing. He's got no ammo. So if he comes on and tries to give you bravado about Temple, then it's phony.
All right, Mike, thanks so much. Thanks for coming on, supporting Penn State. You do a great job with all the money you give and everything, and you do a great job on 97.5, so thanks a lot for joining us.
All right, thanks, Willie. Good talking to you.